Welcome everyone to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host from My Self-Reliance, and it's so good to be with you tonight. Tonight, it's in the lead up to the election. I thought it was really important that we get together a few of our candidates who are running and really dive into finding out what we need to know as we head towards the polling booth. So we are going to leave our announcements towards the end so that we can jump in and find out really what it is that we need to know. And I have three beautiful candidates here. So let me bring on screen our gentleman. Welcome, Harry. Harry's
Hi.
from Queensland.
Yeah, the southern end of which is sort of Miami down to Coolangatta. That's called the lower house seat of McPherson.
Beautiful. And from the Libertarians, is that right, Harry?
No, the people, it's Jared Rennick's People First Party.
People
So
First Party.
yeah, which is
Apologies.
people would know Senator Jared Rennick. He's still a current senator and he's up for re-election, and he was with the LNP, but obviously they didn't pre-select him because he was speaking out a bit too much and asking too many questions. So he's decided to go out on his own. Yeah. So basically, I've jumped in very at the last minute to. I'm registered to vote in McPherson. I've
Yeah.
spent quite a bit of time here, so I've jumped in to help him get back into the Senate. And Karen Andrews, it's a LNP stronghold, Liberal
Uh-huh.
National Party. She's vacated. She's retiring, and so there's about 12, I think 12 candidates. So it's up for grabs. We've got the Teals in here in a few of the seats masquerading as independent. So it's up for grabs. So we're going to put in a good fight, and we'll just see how we go.
Great. Well, for all those Queenslanders who are heading to the voting polls, then Harry's your man to look out for. So let's welcome Michelle Palmer.
Hi everyone, how are you?
It's lovely to have you here tonight from the Heart Party.
Thank you. Yes, I'm from the Heart Party, and Heart stands for Health, Environment, Accountability, Rights and Transparency. And we have policies that relate very strongly to those acronyms. And I am running in the seat of Lindsay, which goes all the way up to Londonderry and down to Mulgoa. So it's quite a big area. There's about 130,000 voters, I think, in that area. So, there's 10 candidates running. So I've got a bit of a job ahead of me
Wow.
in the lower house, yeah. So there's only three minor parties. Well, actually, I don't know if One Nation's considered a minor party as such, but it's quite popular and well known. But there's only three minors, and the rest are all, the usual. So yeah, so we've got a bit of a huge job ahead of us. It's my third election.
I was going to say, this is not your first time around the traps. You've done this before.
I have done this before. I contested the 2022 election, federal election and the state election, and now I'm running again in the federal, which was a last-minute decision because my anxiety levels were rising, and I thought, why am I so anxious about saying I'm not doing this? And the moment that I decided to call Michael and say, am I too late? I really need to do this. And he says, welcome aboard. The moment he said, we really want you, my anxiety levels dropped. So I knew that I was on the right track. I knew this had to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so great. That's so great because that's you. Your heart is in the right place. Yeah.
Absolutely. Feel very aligned with this party and its policies and the people within the party, like such as Sonia, who is just the most beautiful woman. I've met her this afternoon for the first time, and we're just, I just felt really resonant with her, and I believe she really fits so beautifully with this party. Everything about her is heart. So it's wonderful to be with her.
Let's add Sonia to the mix. And so welcome, Sonia. Now, Sonia, for those in the room who know that Sonia and I were neighbours and we knew each other before tonight. And so I'm so thrilled that Sonia is running in the Heart Party. I think that's, just her niche. But in a previous life, Sonia's been a filmmaker, and an advocate for children and for human trafficking. And so she's been across the board of, really a humanitarian for a long while back. So welcome, Sonia. Good to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Let's start with you, Sonia. Why did you put up your hand to run for the Senate?
Okay. This is my first election, so I am learning as I go. So I'm picking the brains of Michelle and calling Michael, and so I am not going to pretend I know everything. I don't. This is a learning curve for me, but I'm coming in with fresh eyes, and with a big heart. And God bless you, Michelle. I met you today. You're an absolute angel. Why I've decided to run? I'm running because I truly believe that we are desperately needing God-fearing men and women in position of leadership in our nation. And the reason that we are in this mess right now is because we have turned the tables. We have run away from accountability. We have chose profits over conviction. And we don't have a heart for the Australians anymore. And I'm just tired of seeing power concentrate in the hands of few people, and then they're pushing us down. And so I'm a mother of 3 young children. To give you a background of who I am, I'm a mother of 3 young children. I'm divorced of 22 years. I have a little boy with Down syndrome, and I'm a foster mother. So I want to see Australia prosper again, and I see that we are under immense pressure at the moment just to survive. So when I am representing, or I would want to represent New South Wales, I'm representing myself. So when I'm representing yourself, it's representing me and my household. And when I represent your children, I'm representing my children. So the battle it's not just a self-interest. It is an interest that we all are. I mean, I live here in Australia. So I see all the bad things that happen, and I am number one in, which I love to do, is I want to see government held to accountability for the corruption that's in government. And that's what I really want to do. So why I am wanting, because I want women and, men and women of all faiths, of all nationalities, of all faiths, to come together, because we are living in such a broken nation and there is not much hope for the younger generation. I see that a lot. You see the suicide increase because cost of living is too much. The cost of living is getting expensive for me and my children. So I'm feeling the same pinch the Australians are feeling as well. So when I want to represent, New South Wales as New South Wales Senate, God willing, it also affects my household. And so I'm tired of seeing people putting their hands in our pockets while they're gaining, while we're constantly losing. And so I just want to rise up above, and I want to serve to bring back morals, transparency, and bring back the power to the people rather than to the elites, and to assist their global agendas. And so let's just knock off the corruption and just bring in a new slate so we can make everything dissolve and start from scratch. So that's why I want to run.
I love that. I've got so many questions for you. So I'm just going to hold on to my questions while I want to ask Michelle the same question first. Like, why do you want to run, Michelle? Why do you come back the 3rd time around? And what was that relief that you felt when Michael said, yes, come on board? What was previous to that? Were you with a different party before? And then why did you want to align with the Heart Party? And do it all over again?
Okay. Well, the Heart Party was named a different party before this one. So I was still with the same party. That hasn't changed. Same people, same leader, Michael O'Neill. And the anxiety was because I knew that there weren't too many people that were advocating for Australians on the ground, like really advocating for Australians. And as it got closer to time, I was thinking, gosh, there's not many people standing up. There's not many people really coming forward. And my anxiety levels were increasing because I thought, oh my goodness, I need to do something about this. And there was a part of me that was saying, gosh, do we really have a chance to do this? Is it really possible? And then I was remembering what I went through the first time when I ran, and it was quite a challenging time. There was a lot of backlash, and it was very, very difficult. However, I strengthened and my character built, and I learned how to ground myself to get through those things. But I said to myself, I don't think I'm going to do it again, a federal election again. But you know, there was some energetic thing that was happening within me that was saying, no, Michelle, that you're just not going to get away with it. You're just not going to get away with not doing anything. And I kept being in argument in my mind about it. And I even spoke to a friend of mine and I said, I think I've made the wrong decision and I hope I haven't left it too late. And my friend said, well, I don't know what you're going to do about that. And I thought, I'm going to take a chance. And I called Michael O'Neill, who at the time was in Dubai with his wife, Barbara O'Neill, who was doing a talk in the palace, in Dubai Palace, with the King and Queen. And he answered my call while he was there. And I said, Michael, hi. And he goes, hi, guess where I am? And he told me, and I said, oh my goodness. And you answered the call. You answered my phone call. He goes, of course. He said, of course I did. He goes, what do you want? And I said, well, is it too late to become a candidate? And he said, Michelle, welcome aboard. Like this, I said, so it's not too late. He goes, we'll be so happy to have you on board. And the moment he said that, my anxiety it dissipated there was not an ounce of anxiety. And I thought, okay, I'm on the right path. And I still feel that way. I feel this sense of energy and drive, and I'm excited. And, you know, I'm getting out there and talking to people. I'm listening to what they are telling me, and I'm really, really taking on board. And there's a lot of upset and a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of struggle. People are financially strapped. They're having so many troubles, you know, paying for bills, and they're angry and they're lost and they really don't know what to do. They just don't know what to do. And they don't know of alternatives. So I feel really, really driven to get us out there and so we can be known to people to say, look, it doesn't have to be the two major parties.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. You do have alternatives. You do have people that actually care, and, you know, you can vote for them. It's not just, you know, the red and the blue and the greens. So they listen, you know, they really listen. So they're hopeful. Some are skeptical, you know, and it's understandable. They've been burned for generation after generation. And, you know, they're concerned. They think, well, what makes you any different? What really makes us different? And I say, well, the difference is we're not career politicians. And we are suffering also along with you. We are struggling with you. And we see the difficulties that are happening on the ground. I know what's going on. I am on my own, living on my own, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really tough. So
you're with the people doing what the people are doing now. I love what you said. You know, Michael has an amazing way of making you feel like you're the most important person in the world when he's talking to you, doesn't he? Even though he's with the king and queen, he's like, no, you're important, and I have to be speaking with you more than them. So I love that. Yeah.
And it just shows about his character. You know, he will never, ever be compromised in any way, shape or form, no matter how, you know, revered he may be in another country by the king and queen because of his wonderful wife, Barbara. And you sort of think, well, he still has time for us, and he still has time for the people. And in the 4 years that I've known Michael, nothing's changed. He's exactly the same. He has the same level of passion. He has the same level of concern for our country and for the people of this country. And he just gets better and better, to be honest. He just becomes more and more resilient as time goes on. And I love him. I love him. I love that we are, you know, representing the Heart Party, because it is such a fabulous party. And everybody involved in this party is everything that the Heart Party represents. So
do you know what? I was meant to be interviewing him tonight, and he rang me on Sunday and he said, oh, I feel really bad because my team have double booked me to speak somewhere else. And do you know what though? I feel like speaking to both of you lovely ladies on tonight, we get to see a bigger picture of what the Heart Party is all about. And also that people, if you feel it in you, this is what I'm getting from both of you, is like, if you have that little niggling feeling, can I do it? Should I do it? Should I stand up for the people? It's, and you as well, Harry, like you're stepping up to take on something big that, it's not like you've been trained in politics to be able to walk into this spot. You've put your hand up to say, do you know what? I do need to make a difference where I am and with the people, my community around me. And I'm willing to put my best foot forward and without any prior training. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being the courageous Australians that we need. And it's so good to see so many Australians stepping up to the plate. I think that we are having the highest number of voters ever in the history. Politics voting this time around. So it's more important than ever that we get it right. So Harry, over to you. What is it that had you want to put your hand up, maybe even reluctantly to say, but why are you stepping into, and because you already said before that you've known Jared Rennick for a while, and so, but you must feel like this is the time now to do something about it. Is that what it is for you?
Well, I'll just go back a bit quickly. I was born in Greek descent, born in Sydney, actually in Marrickville, which is Albanese's, which is Grangler. And I grew up, and I just have memories. When I finished year 10, you could go to the Commonwealth Employment Office and you could pick whichever job you wanted. I got a job every holidays and worked. And if you wanted to buy a house, you could. If you wanted to have a good time and party, you could. And you could still pay your rent and do everything. So you had a choice as to what you want to do with your life. And then when I joined the AFP, and I was there for quite a while, 20 odd years, and 5 years at the Independent Commission Against Corruption. I left in 2006, so I already signed up to serve and protect. I took the oath under the Queen back in 82. This is before we became a corporation under the Australia Act. So what happened then was my wife and I have had several businesses, including we had a motel at the southern end of the Gold Coast for 10 years. From about we took a punt in 2009 in the GFC, started a business from scratch, never ran a motel before, and we sold that in 19, and got out at the end of 19, and then COVID hit when technically I retired in 19, and my journey started in 08 with the GFC when the money dried up. It didn't make sense to me, so I started doing some research, and everything I tried to disprove, I actually proved through documentation, the law, think tanks. And then I found out actually that I took a hepatitis B shot in 86, perfectly fit, never had a problem, didn't even get a cold, Mediterranean diet. And I was in bed for a week, and I found out in about 14 that I'd been vaccine injured. And I never went back to take the second one. I just didn't feel right. And I don't know what it was, but I think if I did take the second one, I probably wouldn't be here today. And I was I've been able to reverse that, but not before having ended up in the ICU for a week. The prognosis of being brain dead and on kidney dialysis. So I've come back from that. So I'm very aware what the body can do and what an individual can do. And when I knew COVID was coming, unfortunately, because I'd read Operation Lockstep 2010, and this was the third time that they tried to pull this off, and they got away with it this time. And what happened was, like I said, Senator Rennick contacted me because one of our friends worked in his office and wanted advice. They got certain advice as to how the pandemic was going to be treated by the government, and I sort of gave him an intricate rundown on the Constitution and the Biosecurity Act 2015, and what I told him was in contrast to what he'd been briefed. And that sort of started Jared Rennick's journey. And he's very analytical. He's a very clever man. If you've seen his posts, he's posting all the time. He's got the numbers. He's got the solutions as an accountant. And I keep saying this to everyone. We've got all the gold. We've got the most gold reserves in the world. We've got oil. We've got everything. All the resources are here, but they're being plundered, and they're being sold off, and the people who they are supposed to be representing, are not getting the benefit of it. So basically, I started, because of my job and what I did, I was always low profile, never on social media, apart from the business that I ran. But I made the decision that if I didn't speak up when COVID started, that you're complicit and you got to take action. So I was speaking out for the whole period of it, going to rallies, protests, whatever you want to call them. And then I was part of Cops for COVID Truth, which is now Cops for Truth and policeforfreedom.org. And the rallies, a lot of people apparently never heard of what was really going on, because the media and the intelligence agents did a very good job of shadow banning and keeping the what was really going on suppressed. And that's what all these hate speech laws and everything else that's been coming in. So I did put my hand up to run for UAP in Grangler, but I didn't get selected. There was a priest that was selected, and then I wasn't going to run this. Well, I had no intention of running this time, but it just came up on a casual conversation with that friend that still works with Senator Rennick. And we're talking about it, and I said, yeah, I'm registered in McPherson, and we haven't got a candidate. Would you run? I said, I'm thinking, well, we've gone, yes, I'll better do what I can to see if we can get him back in there. And I think the nail in the coffin was when One Nation abstained from voting for that legislation for the hate speech laws. So it's only about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So it's been quite a journey now, just going out. I'm actually on the street putting the core fluids, talking to people, been at Coolangatta markets, and basically what Michelle said is the feeling on the street. And I knew that before anyway, because I'm talking to people every day. I'm planting seeds, trying to get them to think, and using the psychology or the psyops, which I'm trained in, to try and break that programming, which is what we've just been through. It was just a huge psychological operation based on fear, which is what military normally use against their enemy. But unfortunately, we've got the enemy within, and we're in an information war, and the truth is now being clamped down even harder and they're using all sort of tactics to do it. Yeah, so that's basically it. So, and where I'm running, it's a Liberal National Party stronghold. Karen, she's actually retired, and it's up for grabs. I think there's about 12 candidates. So, and so I think we're in with a chance to do something. And a lot of the LNP aren't happy. I've had a lot of people from the LNP unhappy with the way the LNP is going. But basically, the two parties are just merging. Everyone, if you actually realise what's going on, you see that both parties are merging. The Labor Party no longer represents the working class. My parents bought 2 homes as labor. My dad was a labourer. Mum stayed home with 4 children for $34,000 in '74. That house is worth $3.5 million. Like, there's no way someone in that position today could even probably afford to rent the house, let alone with that many children, let alone even get a deposit. And the Liberals no longer represent small business. They look after the big end of town. And basically, I think, and the other thing that gets me is our Constitution for what it is. There are no parties in the Constitution. What it was meant to be is that we elect a representative from our area, and they go to Parliament, and they stand there, and they pick a leader of the House, upper and lower house, and they're supposed to make good law for the benefit of the people, but it's anything but. So we've got a lot of problems, a lot of things that we can solve, but we've got plenty of money. We've got plenty of solutions, but we just need to get in there to get cracking. And Gerard Rennick, most people would know that we're going to have a deficit for 10 years. We can turn it around in 4 years, and there's plenty of money and there's plenty of ways to do it. And he's an accountant. And we've got things like the TGA, like conflict, being at the Independent Commission Against Corruption. There's a thing called, not only should there be no conflict of interest, there should be no appearance of a conflict of interest. Now, TGA get paid to approve drugs. I mean, that's like giving the bank robber the keys to the safe. These sort of things it's just at a minimum it's malfeasance, but it's definitely, there's a lot of corruption there. The NACC is a toothless tiger. The head of the NACC was adversely mentioned in the robo-debt. Now he's the head of the National Anti-Corruption Commission. There's allegations about Albanese, but they're just buried there. And the same thing happened when I was at ICAC. We had Barry O'Keefe, the brother of Johnny O'Keefe, who was the commissioner, but it was truly independent. And all we told Parliament was how many jobs we were doing, how many we completed, and how much money we spent. Thank you very much. And then it just turned into we saw what's happened down at IBAC, and we've seen what's happened up here in Queensland, what happens with the corruption. So the problem is very systemic. We just need to clean out the bureaucracy, because they're the ones that actually run the system. So it's a very easy way of doing it. I've got that experience, that knowledge on how to do it, and how to weed the bad apples, which are all at the top. The most of the people at the bottom, along with the agenda, because I think they're doing the right thing, and they're just following orders, as people say, but they're oblivious to what's really going on at the top and where the orders are coming from and why, and they're compartmentalised. But that's pretty much in a nutshell. So I already swore to serve and protect once, and it's no different. And like I said, if I didn't do it, it's for my children, my grandchildren, everyone's children. It's for the future, because I see the children, and people have lost hope. And the way we treat our elderly is disgusting. And we've got plenty of money to do everything, but it's just that it's being siphoned off and stolen and being spent on issues and things that have no consequence and have no benefit to the people of Australia.
Do you know, I love that I have the three of you on, and from different parties too, because it's important that people know that there is diversity but also you're speaking the same language. We all want the same things. And you spoke about the Constitution, Harry. I'm glad you brought that up. How important is it for the common Australian plus our politicians to really understand the Constitution?
Look, it's very important. And there's a reason they don't teach us the Constitution at school. There's a reason they don't teach us about money, what is money, and how to be an entrepreneur, because they don't want you to know. You need to go a bit further up in the system and be trained and get in there, and that's what it's all about. So if we had the knowledge, then you've got power, then things like the lockdowns and what happened during COVID would not have occurred, because the people would have stood up. And that's what they fear most. If the people knew what was really being done to them, there'd be pitchforks and whatever. There'd be a revolution the next morning. I think that's a famous quote I'm getting from somewhere. So that's the problem. And people are just being put in a position, they've got so much debt. We've probably had about the real inflation rate, because there's shadow stats. The real inflation rate since COVID, more money's been printed than in the last how many years since the US Federal Reserve came into being in the last 5 years in America and here. But the real inflation rate realistically is 50%. And that's what we're seeing now. And it's not going to end anytime soon, because we've got governments that keep borrowing from the future and putting it on the backs of hardworking Australians, and then compounding the problem by bringing in unsustainable immigration, which is then creating infrastructure and other problems and other issues with our hospitals, our judiciary and everything. And that's where we're at now.
Mm. Well, I really love that you understand, what we're experiencing, what we've gone through, and the history, and where it's all come from. So let's get down to the mechanics of how it all works. So we've got Sonia running in the Senate. We've got candidates for the lower house. How does it all work for the person when they get to the ballot box? They see Heart Nation, or they see People First Party, or they see the Libertarians, or they're going to see lots of things, right? So they're going to see the white ballot paper, and they're going to see the green ballot paper. So what is it the first thing that people need to know about this process? Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll go first.
Yes,
No, go first. No, go first.
Okay, so the white paper is the really huge, monstrous piece of paper that you could wrap presents with, and that is the Senate paper, and you vote above the line for the Senate, or you can vote for every single candidate below the line, depending on the column. So column I is where Michael O'Neill is, and Michael says I for intelligence. You're intelligent if you me. God,
No, you can't say I for integrity, because that's what the heart stands for. So it's integrity as well as the intelligence. So just add that extra.
So Sonia, will we see Michael's name above the line, or is it depending on where you live? Will we see him above the line?
So I've dived deep into this, and so with the white big sheet of paper, you walk in there and you've got two choices of how to vote. So you can cast your voting for the Senate two ways. Like Michelle said, the first way is you number the boxes from 1 to 6 above the line for parties or groups. And if you don't do that correctly and you fill that incorrectly, it's classified as invalid. So please get that correct. Or if you want to vote below the line, that is for individuals of the parties. And that is you number them from 1 to 12. And again, the same applies. If you don't do that accordingly from 1 to 12 correctly, that becomes an invalid vote. So it is above the line, 1 to 6, must fill it all, or it becomes invalid for groups and parties. Or if you want to do below the line, that's for the individuals of the parties from 1 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yes, so in the Senate. So does it matter where you live in Australia as to whose names you're going to see
Correct.
in the white ballot paper?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you've got the green sheet. This is where Michelle comes into it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's for the lower house, and depending on the amount of candidates in your area. So for an example, in my area, there's 10. So you would number your first candidate and to 10. So I would suggest, people would vote the majors last, but you would number it 1 to 10. So if you miss any one of those, it becomes an invalid vote as well. You can't just vote. You have to vote in order of your preference.
Yeah. Harry, what's your letter? Are you green paper or white paper?
No, I'm lower house.
Your lower house,
yeah. Senator Jared Rennick's running in the Senate, obviously, and he's in G. So it's one above the box. That's what our voting sheet is showing. And then the ballot power, I've got 12 in my seat. So we've already done our preferencing, and it's up on the website. If people basically, we're preferencing all the independents first, and going in, and then putting. Yeah, Liberal, then the Teals and Greens and Labor last.
Greens last, yes.
Yeah. So
right at the end.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the problem we've got is that, like I said, we've got Teals running in my seat, McPherson, and also in Moncrief, but that's a very strong, and Angie Bell's there, that's a very strong LNP, Liberal Party seat. So that's pretty safe. But yeah, they are spending a lot of money, and the same up in Fadden, which is the northern end of the Gold Coast. And then we got Richmond. We've got to have all but 15 seats we've got quite a big coverage in Queensland. But in New South Wales, we have got Senate we've got Richmond in New South Wales, which is on the border with Tweed. And then we've got New South Wales as well. And then we've got Melbourne, Victoria, South Australia. And WA, we've got two candidates up. I think upper house and lower house in WA. They're all on the website. Yeah. So, but we're all preferencing the independents, the true independents first, and obviously putting the, I've talked Labor, Liberal, or Labor, Teals.
When you
Greens.
say the independents, Harry, is that the Freedom parties? Who are we talking about there?
Well, what we're talking about, like for me, I'm first, and it's Gary Biggs, who's he's the Libertarian.
Yeah.
3 is Faye Mitchell. She's an independent on her own, and she's really pushing, trying to get a national DV policy going. 4, Cheswick McMillan, another independent. Where are we?
And it's tricky to know, because when they say that they're independent, we don't know if they're truly independent or if they're independent Greens or they're independent other ways. So. It's easier to know whether they're from the Heart Party, the People First, the Libertarians. Who else are in that category that we as in the freedom community like to look towards?
Well, that's right. I mean, I was at a forum in Tugun last night, and there was 7. Only the Liberal didn't show here. Leon Rebello, who's the LNP have put up, but. Basically, there was 4 of us that was One Nation, myself, Michelle, and the Libertarian, and we had no notes, no nothing. We were just talking off script and getting up. There was Greens, the ECMA Barry Bartlett, who's a Teal, being funded by Homes of Court. and the Labor person, they're all there with notes, prepared speeches. So, and they're all just saying the same thing. Nothing really. There was no real difference really. And yeah, and you're just hearing the same old dribble that you've been getting from our politicians for decades. You know, like promising everything and delivering nothing, and now we've got them offering, you know, Albanese offering 5% to every first homeowner. 100,000. They're going to build 100,000 homes just for first homeowners. I mean, they haven't. I don't know. I don't think they've built any. Have they built any new homes from the ones that started? So I don't know how they're going to do that. So that's more debt.
Yeah, we know that their policies are all a sham, but
unfortunately, the young ones are falling for it. That's where we've got to get to it because they don't understand. They get into big debt.
To get the message out.
And we're going to have a downturn. When like what we're seeing now, unfortunately, is just the beginning of what's coming. Sadly to say. With what's happening with the geopolitics and everything else, there's just so many moving parts at the moment geopolitically. So, and then he's encouraging, like they encouraged during the COVID, go out and buy a house, you know, the home builder, whatever it was, and we're going to have, you know, rates aren't going to increase for 4 years. I mean, I haven't got a uni degree, whatever, but that's the most idiotic, you know, from a central bank governor, idiotic statement I've ever heard in my life, trying to predict something 4 years out. And then we saw what happened, and then they're just setting them up for the same thing, for negative equity. And if you can't hold on, they're going to be in a worse position than what they were before had they not bought.
Yes, yeah. So we do have some other candidates, trumpeter patriots. That's
Clive Palmer's.
Clive Palmer's, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how many freedom parties there are and they align and where they differ.
Can I say something? Yeah, the trumpeter patriots, they believe he's just there. He's preferencing the Liberal Party, so he's not really, you know, they're not really an independent. So that's where, if you vote for them, that's where your vote's going, because he's running the big campaign. Yes. Yeah, I think that's what he's up there doing. Because he actually tried, because he deregistered his party and wasn't able to run, and somehow this party was registered, so he's tagged onto that. But that's what I think that's what Clive's about, because it was pretty much the same thing in the last election, although it didn't work, and you know, Labor got in.
Okay, so it's good to know where the preferences are going, and that was really my question: who's aligned? Who's in this circle where we're preferencing each other? And who's outside of that? So have I missed anybody?
You've got the family first.
Yeah, family first.
Family first, yes.
And Australian Christians, because a lot of people may not be Christians and they may not align with that party because they're not Christian, which is absolutely fine. A lot of people ask, so what should I put as preferences? And the thing is, what I've learned in this little time is that we don't choose your preferences, you do. This is your time to speak and to vote. And what we just ask, that if there is no Heart Party candidate in your electorate, that please do vote for the minor parties, which is those parties that we've just mentioned. Because I look at the three, the Labor, Liberals and Greens, and they've just made an absolute mockery of Australia. And like Harry was saying, with the Constitution, you know, I didn't know nothing about the Constitution or human rights till COVID hit. And so I look at COVID as a blessing and as a curse at the same time. And so the problem with these days, which, you know, I was a victim back then until my eyes opened and I woke up from my heavy coma, is we're not educated. We need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate the younger generation. Because if you look at COVID, if you look at the international covenant that Australia and the UN signed, which is the Political and the Rights Act, which they signed in 1980, that says that you cannot be coerced in a medical treatment. Now, a letter that was written by a human rights advocate, he and we got together and we started sending out thousands of these letters. 4 times that letter went out to the employers, and they actually said, we don't want to touch this because they don't want to mess with the UN. And so they remained them at work. And this is the thing, when you don't know your human rights. And, you know, when COVID hit, I was still going outside my radius, not because I was a rebel, but because I don't have fear. And I think fear is our own biggest enemy. And, you know, me being a Christian, and I want to bring up just a verse, the Lord Jesus Christ says, do not have fear 365 times. And that's once for every single day. Do not have fear. And the reason why the world is in such a mess because of mass compliance is because of fear. And like I said, I didn't go outside my zone because I was rebellious. I had no fear because I knew the common ground that I stood on, and that is God's principles, God's law, and my human rights. And when you know your human rights, no one can touch you. But I think the reason why I'm here as well with every single one of you is because I'm sick and tired of the big voices getting louder and our voices it's being hindered. And so I don't know what I can do, and I'm sure none of us know what's going to happen. Only God knows. But we just need to make a change, because you cannot expect different results by doing the same thing. And I look at knowledge is power, but knowledge is powerless without action behind it. Because you might have all the knowledge in the world, but there is no point, and it's not going to do anything if there's no action. Like you said before, during a few years ago, I've been heavily involved in a child trafficking organization, and I personally funded a raid in the Philippines, and we rescued 19 young children as young as 5. And so when you see things out there and you know that it happens from the government, and I'm not saying all government personnel, there are beautiful souls there and they are oblivious that this is even happening. But this is where my passion comes into it. I'm a mother myself. I was abused myself as I was little, I was a teenager. And I have no shame in saying that, because I know how much it can cause. And I know, and it's nowhere near what these children are actually going through right now. But if we can't step up, and that's why I'm a foster mother as well. My heart is with children. I'm a child of God, and all of us are his children. And so if we cannot speak up and educate ourselves, my children's, they're doomed already. And so my children know their human rights. They know about the Constitution. I've got 3 young children. At the age of 7, they knew the Constitution, they knew the human rights, they knew this, they knew that. And so that's where we're at.
Michelle, what kind of a difference can we make if you get enough of the votes and you get in? What can happen from there?
Well, I believe that, sorry, my battery was about to die, and I was just about to type to you to say my battery's about to die. I'll see what I can get in before I run out to get my charger. I believe that if I get in, I'm going to bring some personable energy to the community, where I can really get down on the ground with people and find out what it is that, even though I already know, but I can expand on what it is that people need, and then I can actually have some power to do something about it. At the moment, I can listen and I can, take on a lot of the information that people are sharing with me that they are desperate to get answers for. And I can only just listen at this stage, but I want to be in a position where I can actually take this to the Senate.
Yeah.
And so I really need to do something about this, and I'll keep fighting. For an example, one of my current ads at the moment that's playing on Vintage FM is for small business, because I know that the businesses in Lindsay are suffering terribly. They're struggling with all the red tape, all of the, rules and regulations that are pinned on them. And they're drowning. They're drowning in taxes, and they can't move forward. They've got no freedom to do what they want with their own business. So, as an example of that, I'm saying I will fight for them in that regard. And I can only say that now while I'm here talking to you and talking to them. But if I was to get in, which I'm praying that will happen, I can actually act on it. And that's really what this is about.
Can people really trust the election process? I guess one of the things that stood out for me this year, and we'll go run and grab your charger, Michelle. Do that before you get kicked off. But in the vote for yes, we got to see that our voices did make a difference. So is the process for the election, is it all on the up and up? Can we trust that the way that we vote is going to put the right people in, and then when you get in, do you really have a say at the big boys' table? Like, how can you make a difference? Maybe, Harry, do you want to speak to that?
Well,
Get much.
yeah. I mean, the media and the speculation at the moment is that we're going to have a hung parliament. And I think it was 2010. We had Oakshott and Windsor. We had a hung parliament there where they got together and did a deal as to who wanted to form a minority government. So if that was the case, that'd be a very good opportunity to get a lot of things done very quickly, because it'd be a matter of who wanted to be the Prime Minister most. And I'm not talking about throwing, I mean, they took money for their electorate and whatever, which is like taking 30 pieces of silver. But I'd want to see real reform and change, like legislation being withdrawn, taken off, the NACC powers widened, and getting someone into that position that was that had integrity in all sets, and also strengthen new whistleblower legislation. There's a lot of things that Jared Rennick has already been talking about and trying to get. Look, even like 40 no one pays tax until they reach 40,000. But I think there's a real opportunity. Like, we've got the money, we've got the resources. We just need to get the right people in there that have the will to do it, because the current lot do not have the will to do it, because they're all voting on the party line. And unfortunately, with these UN, all these treaties that we've got, they have not been abiding by them. And the clearest example of that, and that should have woken everyone up, was the pandemic that the so-called pandemic that we just went through, which has now come out that the flu was more dangerous than the pandemic, than COVID. So that's the problem we're dealing with, is that there are systems and legislation in place that's taken away our sovereignty, but it's supposed to actually assist us. But we haven't got a human rights. Queensland's got a human rights act. We've got a human rights commission that stood down and did nothing, and later came out and put a report that was a bit fluffy, because they're government appointees. We've got judges, federal court judges and high court judges that are ruling in the McCann case that one of the defences was that the government did not have a duty of care to the Australian people about the COVID vaccination. So, I mean, if that doesn't ring alarm bells and get you out of your seat in anger, I don't know what will. So, yeah, we've got a real problem. The corruption is really deep and very rooted. We've got pedophiles at the highest places. There's most of you may or may not be aware of the 90-year 28 VIP suppression order. My understanding, there's 480 suppression orders dealing with other politicians and high-profile people in all the states. This all ties in with what's happening with Epstein and everything else. So we've got some real issues, and that ties into child traffic and slavery and everything else that need to be dealt with. But we need people to stand up and take action. What the old saying is, evil prospers when good men and women do nothing, and that's how we've got here, because people have, we've had it too good for too long, and people have just been going along, and people don't take action, I don't think, until it actually personally affects them. And unfortunately, I think we're going to have to see a lot more pain and a lot more suffering, which I don't want to see before we get to a position, maybe, unless we can get some people in at this election and start turning this sinking ship around and trying to refloat it to a better place.
Yeah, I love that you put that passion in there, because too many people in the freedom communities have opted out of voting altogether and think that, because of the corruption, because of the Constitution being overlooked, and because the parties are doing things in a fraudulent manner, well, what's the point of voting? We should just not vote at all because we don't want to participate in a fraudulent system. That's the very crux of this conversation is, no, you need to participate. Otherwise, the evil gets to prosper, and we need to make our voice known and make it heard.
That's right. I mean, yes, there's a lot of issues even with the Constitution, and I mean, I didn't know until COVID was actually a blessing in one. Not that it really affected me. Didn't actually affect me at all, because I knew my rights, the law, and I didn't follow one stupid law. And it wasn't a law; it was actually a mandate or an order, which is not law. Basically, they're all contracts, and people didn't realise that they had a choice. And that's what I tried to explain to people: learn your constitution, learn your Biosecurity Act, and then you can take some action and get empowered. Knowledge.
I think that's the definition of freedom, right? We are the freedom
Exactly.
community because
Freedom must be exercised or you lose it. But yeah, and this is that I did a lot of deep research, and then I actually went into the Constitution, and there's a basic principle of the like we're all created equal, and it's we've got inalienable rights that come from the Creator. Like I'm Christian, Greek Orthodox, brought up very strictly, and I was an altar boy. So a lot of it didn't make sense, and you go away, then it all makes sense now. And what I came to understand was that it's the fear that stops people from and this is what they teach you at school. It's the fear of no, you're never going to be anything. So they keep drumming the fear. If I do this, what are the consequences? But what are the consequences if you don't take action? And we saw a lot of that, and now we're seeing all the injured, all the maimed, all the death, and they're still pushing it under the carpet. And that's another big thing that we need to take care of and get some justice for the people that have been maimed, injured, and are no longer with us. And I'm sure we've all heard stories, or we've been all affected and touched by it, including myself. So there's a lot of issues. There's just so many, but we just need to get the right people, and we need a consensus. And there is no left or right. That's another left or right paradigm. That's just another thing that was put in there to keep us all apart. And it's very sad to see that people don't understand. If we all come together, we could achieve great things.
So what would you like to see, and this is a question for each of you, the people in your area who are voting, who you're trying to send the message to, what is it that what's their responsibility before they come to the ballot box? What do we all need to be doing right now to prepare so that we know and we can be one voice? What should we be doing, Michelle? Because some of us are we're a bit Aussie, laid back, she'll be right, and then we'll get there, and then it comes down to a bit of a popularity vote if we're not really aware. So how can we be supporting you in your campaign? What can we be doing? I'll start with Michelle.
Okay, well, it's one of those things. People need to trust that, or know us, understand us, and get us, and really believe in us, first of all. I think that's really important. I don't expect people to advocate for me if they don't know who I am and what I stand for, and if I'm a woman of integrity. So I think it's important that for anyone who's going to advocate for us is they really get to know us. And so therefore, when they speak about us, they can speak with conviction and certainty that we are the right person for the people. I think that's really, really important. I wouldn't want anyone to advocate for me if they're just, off the cuff, just speaking. I really want them to come from a place that is deep, and they have done their homework and they believe in us. So I feel that's really, really important. I think it's important for them to understand the policies and really, see if they themselves align with the policies. And look, the policies that we have are, to me, I feel like they're quite generic across the board for people. Like everyone that looks at them, I can't imagine someone looking at them saying, "No, I don't like that," or I wouldn't like that to happen for me or my family or my children. I think that our policies are very, they're very quite loving and quite natural, and the way life really needs to be, in a sense, for people to flourish and for people to be healthy and financially free, and to ensure the safety of humanity, in that we never ever go through what we've gone through again. We really advocate for that, for exposing what's going on within the government, doing what they call, what's the name of it, Sonia, help me out here. There's when we do investigations within the government, and you know, it needs to happen to ensure that the people are looked after, and we educate people so they don't let this happen to us again, you know, with the whole COVID thing. So I guess it really comes down to that each individual that's looking for someone to vote for needs to find someone they fully align with and that they trust are their word and have integrity. And you only have to look at the history of the Heart Party, how they've never changed. They've always remained, you know, steadfast and solid in their conviction and their policies, and they've never changed in that way. And it's always been for the people. And I've seen what Michael is like, and Barbara O'Neill, what she's gone through to help people. And of course, we're so lucky to have her. We're so blessed to have Barbara with us. You know, she in herself, you can tell she's a woman of integrity. She's a woman that is, against all odds, continue to help people around the world. And she sells close to the same amount of books as Harry Potter. That's how popular this lady is, and how revered she is, and how trusted she is with people's health. So we're so fortunate to have her aligned with Heart Party and to be the wife of Michael O'Neill, who's the leader of our party. How fortunate are we to have two people of such integrity and such passion for people, you know, with us. And they say to look at the leadership to see the type of, you know, if you're looking in an organisation, you always know what type of leaders you have by the way the people in the organisation operate. And I feel that we are all a very, very big reflection of Michael and Barbara in our individual ways.
Yeah, 100%.
And what a blessing, really. So
I can really hear that. Sonia, if people want to do their research, if they go to the website, are they going to be able to see who's in their area and how they can support?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you just go to the website for heartparty.com, and the real issue. Sorry, I just had Michael O'Neill call me. I had to hang up on him.
He's just got off his call.
Sorry, Michael. Australia has just become too complacent. And the thing is, a lot of people come up to me and say, Sonia, I don't vote anymore because I see the rubbish that we're in. And I'm like, this is exactly why you need to vote. Because like I said, if you're not going to change things by keep doing the same thing. So amp it up, change things, and you might get a different result. A lot of people do come to me and say, Sonia, I'm going to so vote for you, whether it's family, friends, my cast or crew, or people that don't know me but just think I'm a nice person. And I tell them, don't vote for me based on that. Go read the heart policies first. And if they resonate to you and you relate and they align with your core values and your belief, then we welcome your vote. Because if I had a family or a friend or even my partner was running, whether it's regardless of where in the election, and I didn't align myself with what they believe in, their party, I wouldn't vote for them. So I think a lot of people just want to vote for people. And the thing is, people aren't going to vote for Heart Party. They're going to vote for the people that are running for the Heart Party. So, and I'm not here to win people's votes. And I know Michelle and Harry and everyone else is not either. We're not here to win votes. I know I'm here to win the trust and the hearts of people, because until we get trust back by the Australians, that's only when we can make real change. I don't want the votes based on because I'm a nice person, because you've got a lot of nice people, but they're shonky at the end. I want to be able to look at, and I want people to look at what the government's done. You know, you want to know who to vote for? Look at what the government has done over these past years and see all the the foolish acts that they've brought in, the foolish bills that they've put in. And I could, you know, we all could talk about all the bills that they want to put in, and we're not going to go into that because we all know how demonic the dark side is. And so I truly believe that we need God-fearing men and women to bring the light over this dark world in order to make a difference. So if some people want to make a difference, then you need to stop doing nothing and start researching who we are, who is the Heart Party, who is the coalition, who is all these little minor parties, and get to know what we stand for and who we are, as opposed to the Heart Party itself. Get to know. I'm a very approachable person, and I get people, in my local shopping centre. Oh, we've seen your cornflakes, and I'm more than happy to spend half an hour and talking to them and hearing their griefs. And the thing is, Australia's crying right now. We're all hurting. And the thing is, we all bleed the same. And so God made us all in his image. So we are all equal in God's eyes. But all I see is the current government have actually stepped up and have actually lowered us. And so what I want to do is get rid of that platform, knock that platform, and get down to the level of all of us, because we are the people of Australia. And so that's what I would say. Educate yourself, know what we stand for, and and vote accordingly and vote wisely with your heart.
So beautiful. I love that. Harry, what can we be doing? What's our responsibility?
Well, my approach is I've just been speaking to people, and like sometimes I've spent up to an hour talking to people about what's been going on. And I think people are thirsty, or just for politicians to listen to them, to actually take action, because they know that they haven't been for how many years. And a lot of people, I just say to them, look, have you read our constitution? Do you know? A lot of people say, I don't care about politics. I'm not interested. It doesn't affect me. But I said, look, you've got to get interested, because it's not for you, your children, your grandchildren, because we've got here because so many people, we've had it too good for too long. And we've all got to step up. We've got a responsibility, because we, the people, are Australia. And we get a say every now and again as to who we put in there. But unfortunately, the people we're putting in there are not doing the right things by the laws and by the country and by the people, and they're festering other people's interests. So I think, and that was shown. That came out in the New South Wales council elections. A lot of independents got in, apart from the fact that the Liberals forgot to register. But a lot of them, because actually, when they went out, they started speaking to the independents. They were actually listening to them, engaging with them, and they're actually came across as being real, passionate, and concerned with what's going on, because they're affected. We're affected by it as much as anyone else is, because we live here as well. So I think that's the main thing, people, and this is what I'm saying to the young people. I've spoken to all the young people and said, it doesn't affect me, nothing I can do. So no, it does. It's your future. And if you don't take action now, if you think things are bad now, just wait for another 10, 15 years. Where do you think where do you think things will be? So it's just a matter of educating them, because they haven't had that instilled in them to be inquisitive. And the social engineering in the schooling system, Department of Education, I think I forget who it was. They did an inquiry into the education system to see what was going wrong, because there were so many failures with children not being able to spell or read or write. And he said the problem isn't money. We've thrown plenty of money in it, but it's just there's a problem with what's being taught or what's not being taught. And as we know now, they're grooming children in schools, because if it happened outside of the school, that the parents would be calling the police. But they're letting them do it in school, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So there's a lot of issues, and I think the youth of today, we've got to capture them and tell them that there's hope, that we know what Australia was like, and it can be like that again. But we need them to make their vote count. And if we can get in there, we can make change.
What can I ask the three of you to put your website addresses in, and also share them with us, so that we can do our due diligence and our research. And is there one site that you recommend that people can go to that gives a broad picture of the voting process? There's a cheat sheet. We love it. We love a cheat sheet. We want to be able to understand. I know Turning Point do a bit of a cheat sheet, and have you had a look at their version of it? Does it align with what you would like people to do when they get to the voting polls? Has anyone seen the Turning Point version? No? Okay, yeah. So pop in the website, Harry, and Michelle, pop that in, or Sonia, for Heart Party so that we can go there and have a look and read up on the policies, read up on you both. Thank goodness to Andrew, who's in the chat, because he sent me the emails and I wasn't getting the Heart Party emails. So when I looked down at all the candidates and then I saw the both of you and I said, oh, there's so actually, and Barry as well, Barry Devine, who's running in the lower house, and like, oh, there's a few people that I know that are running as candidates in the Heart Party, and so that's very cool. So www.heartparty.com.au, as simple as that. And Harry's just sending his through. And let's, as we do need to wrap it up, Michelle, what do you want people to know as we finish up tonight?
Why am I always the first person?
Because we need to come back to you. We haven't heard from you for a little bit.
Oh, what do I want people to know about me, or just know about the
Yeah,
election?
what haven't we covered? What else do we need to make sure that people hear about? What haven't we covered?
Gosh, that's a good question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. What haven't we covered? I think we've covered quite a lot through the interview. I think it's been Harry's really covered a lot of things that I didn't think we were going to discuss today, but we're all very aware of them. And, I guess I could reiterate how important it is for us to be aware of the things that are going on within the government that most people don't know about. And even where our money's going, our monies are going to, and I don't really want to touch on this subject, but it is important, I guess, just to maybe plant the seed to invoke curiosity. But a lot of money's going overseas for war from our country. And why? I mean, we are really needing this money here to look after Australians. And a lot of money is going overseas that funding wars. And look, we are a party of peace. We don't believe that war is a way to resolve things. And unfortunately, it is something that happens. But we need to look after our own here. There are people, we're in our own war. And it's more of a sign, it appears, it's not the kind of war where there's bombs and guns and things like that. It's a war between different groups, different beliefs, the medical system, the government, the constabulary. There's a war going on between all of this, different beliefs, different things like the LGBTQI and the Black Lives Matter and the, all the things that are set to divide us when we really don't, we are all equal, but they're deliberately put to us to divide us and to help, make us forget who we are, and they're labeling us. And of course, while you have labels, there's always going to be division. And I think it's really important that people become aware that these things are just made up stuff to create division, whereas really we are all one and we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. And I think the biggest thing that we can take from this is just to accept we are different. Listen to one another. Listen to how we're different, but not, it doesn't have to be personal attack if someone has a different view or opinion. So, the powers that be, the people above, higher up, are doing this on purpose to divide us. And the sooner we say no more, I'm just going to be accepting of people as they are. There's no need to push any beliefs or agendas onto people. Let's just enjoy each other for our differences. It's really important.
I 100% align with that. And that's the message that I keep wanting it to share at My Self-Reliance. This year we're talking about community reliance rather than self-reliance, because together we can do it, we can do anything. But when you have division and separateness and labels, as you said, then that keeps people apart. And so thank you for sharing that. It's really beautiful. Harry, you've put up your website, peoplefirstparty.au/Harry. I'm not even going to try and say your last name, Harry.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Hatzikalibni Aussie. The other one is for teams, so if people are interested, that brings all the candidates for the election. They can have a look by electorate, and if they've got anyone that they want to look at that they may be interested, and all the policies are there and everything, so they can have a look at a deep dive. There's the key policies, and then the quite a few there that go in depth that are on the website. Yeah,
Right. Peoplefirstparty. Is there a .com, .au, or is it just .au? So peoplefirstparty.au.
That's
and
it.
then you can do /team as well. So
yeah, if you do, that's the Harry. That's my direct link, the /team, and then that'll take you to the whole team. Yeah, look, going back to what Michelle was saying, it's what they're trying to do is demoralize us and dehumanize us. So, like we don't. We lose empathy because unfortunately, a lot of those people in those high places have got no empathy for. They've lost their souls. So that's what they're trying to do, and and it's very sad. And it does, unfortunately, it is working because we saw with Israel, and the wars, all the freedom people that were against COVID, all of a sudden they're fighting each other over Israel and Palestine. Where we should have no wars. We shouldn't be, unless there's a direct threat on our soil. We shouldn't be getting involved in other conflicts, and that's the problem. And if you come to Australia, I think you should, like my parents did. We kept our culture, we did everything, but we still were proud to be who we were here and follow the rules and the laws and not bring those conflicts on shore. And unfortunately, it's gone to a point now where we've got so many different agendas, so many ideologies and whatever, and it's all being used to mishmash and create this real division, which is another part of the Hegelian dialectic, unfortunately, to keep us apart. Yeah, very sad.
100%. That was the main thing during COVID, that people had to be distanced and couldn't hug. And I thought, that's just evil right there.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but facial recognition works a lot better when you're 1.5 meters apart. If you're in a crowd, it's not as effective. Not at the moment, anyway. We haven't got quantum computing, obviously, whatever. But there's a lot of things to do with what those, and I wanted to see how far they could take it. So it's very interesting, and it's all laid out. People can go and find the think tanks. All the foundations are right. They've been writing about it for decades, but people are just not interested to go and read it because it is pretty boring, like legislation. But if you can, do yourself a real big favour and read the Constitution, read the Biosecurity Act, because they're still denying. People probably don't know this. We've seen all the stories of medical procedures being denied to people that wanting transplants, sort of they're immune compromised, but they had to take. They wouldn't do it without taking the vaccine. Now, this is how sick these people are. In the Biosecurity Act, it actually specifically states that you cannot deny a person a procedure if they a life-saving procedure despite of their vaccination status. So this is how sick and demented these people are at the top. That, like I said, they're not even following their own legislation.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can I also add in there quickly is that I truly believe that the reason why there's so much division here in Australia is not because of you and I or just the people. It comes from the government, because the government wants to actually separate us. You look at the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. You look at the Christians versus the Muslims. You look at the Australians versus the wogs, as we used to call them. You look at this versus that. And the thing is, what they do is they seem to cause chaos. And then when there's chaos, they think they can bring in a solution. But they're the ones that cause the chaos to begin with. And that's their means. That's their purpose. That's what they want to do. And so like Michelle even said, God talks about get your household in order first. Get your household in order first before you take care of outside. And our household is Australia. So we must take care of Australia first before we can think of every other nation. And the thing is, I think we've just spread ourselves so thinly where there's not enough for the Australians.
Yeah, order out of chaos. Yeah,
Yeah.
order.
And have less chaos and just bring back freedom. Also, the freedom of speech as well. You know, I'm sure everyone was shadow banned during COVID times, and I know I was.
Yes.
And I sometimes I still am. You know, and that means you're doing something right. So keep speaking truth, and that's what we're here for. You know, we speak truth, and I know for a fact that the involvement that I've had with all the beautiful souls in the Heart Party is that we're true to our word. You know, God says, "Let your yes be yes, and your no be no," and anything else apart from that is from the evil one. And those that are in government right now, they give you their word, and once they're in power, they take it back. And so I can say with Michelle on behalf of the Heart Party, with Michael O'Neill, that we are true to our word, and that if we say something, that we will commit, and if we can't commit, we won't say it at all.
That's right.
Yeah, 100%. I just in the chat, there's an for those who are not in the room who are listening to this, you can go to TPAUST, so turningpointaust.com.au, to hear about the Turning Points version for how to vote in your area for all the putting all the freedom candidates first. And it's so super important because we do need to stand up for truth and righteousness and living under God's laws. And I thank you, ladies, for speaking truth and speaking light into us, and Harry for really highlighting what it is that we, you know, how we can be making a difference. And, you know, I love that you brought up that, you know, for evil to prosper, good men just need to do nothing. And we're not about doing nothing, we're about doing something. And never before have we needed leaders to stand up. And so I, you know, truly believe that we can all be leaders in our own area, in our own space, with the people that we're around, and, you know, be making a difference. I often talk about looking at your life from the end backwards and saying to yourself, okay, if you know, what has my life been about? What difference have I made? What legacy can I leave on this planet? And who have I been and who have I become? What was my life for? And so, you know, if we all kind of take on that, that was my dad always telling me, you know, what is your life for? Who are you being? And you know, we can all make a difference. We can all do something. And so make sure your vote counts, and make sure that you know how to vote when you get there, so that it doesn't become null and void inadvertently or on purpose. You know, we need to be able to vote in the right way so that our voice can be heard. And just, I wanted to say thank you so much for your courage, each of you, and anyone else who's, you know, standing up in position of taking on being a candidate, because it's not easy. And we experienced before we jumped on tonight, those who, you know, you're doing the right thing when you have opposition. And that just says, hey, just keep going, because there are those opposing forces out there who want to get in your way, who want to put fear in front of you, and you know, you guys have courage in spades. And so thank you for being who you are and stepping up to the plate and allowing us to, you know, those who are not in the position to be able to step up, to have someone to turn to. So thank you for doing that. We admire you and appreciate you.
Thank you.
Kelly, God bless you.
Thank you for coming on tonight at such short notice as well. We have really enjoyed your company and your wisdom, and your force for good in the world. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kelly. Before you go, I just say that we would not be able to do what we do without our volunteers. Our volunteers have been, I mean, gosh, I'm managing my own campaign at the moment, and it is tough. And, you know, the volunteers have been doing deliveries for me, and, you know, letterbox deliveries and things like that. They really hold things together for us and get our name out there. So I want to just take this opportunity to thank them for the support that they're giving and the belief that they have in us. they're just amazing.
Volunteers make Australia great, don't they? And so, you know, I want to say if anyone's watching this in the replay, you can volunteer down at your, you know, go find your electoral area and say, how can I volunteer? And even being part of the counting process, right? And making sure they're doing things right on the day. You know, there's so many ways that you can get involved and oversee that process that, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Michelle. Let's all support our freedom candidates in whatever way we can.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Super great conversation, guys. Thank you. And
Thank you.
All the best in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, all the best, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciated your input.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Andrew,
Thank
for
you
all
very
the